Hi, my name is Hannah Gelinas, and this is my developmental history project on my life. The first stage we're looking at is my birth stage. From Maslow, I began building many things such as my sociological needs, safety needs, and the loving needs. I was able to live under a safe roof over my whole life with a ton of food and water and love in the household. My family loved me endlessly and still loves me endlessly to this day. From Piaget, I began to build my sensory motor stage, where I began to build my schemas. From Bronfenbrenner, I began to develop my microsystem, from my parents and my brother coming into my life. From bell hooks, I was able to build my social classification because my family I noticed was going to love me endlessly no matter what I aligned with throughout my life. The next stage we're going to look at is my toddler stage, where from Piaget, I was able to continue building my sensory motor stage and begin to build object permanence. Additionally, I was able to begin my pre-operational stage, where I was able to learn how to have language skills and mental representations of objects. From Kohlberg, I was able to build my pre-conventional morality. This is when I was able to accept authority and consequences of actions. Additionally, throughout this time, I moved to Arlington Heights, where I currently live. And that was when I was able to build an part of my ecosystem, where I was able to notice my good school district and safe community I live in. From Vygotsky, I was able to build my zone proximal development, such as imaginary play and visual aids. Moving into my elementary school stage, I began to develop many more things of my life. Such as Brunner, I was able to develop a spiral curriculum where I was able to enact hands-on representation, image representation, and language representation to images and other aspects. From Piaget, I was able to build my pre-conventional stage more, where I was able to build friendships and create more of a routine for myself. From Bronfenbrenner, I was developing my meso system, such as having a more interconnected with direct contact, such as coaches when I began to play softball, and then interactions with peers and family, such as my parent-teacher conferences I had every year in my school district. From Bronfenbrenner, I also developed my macro system, where I had a surrounding society and cultures impacting me. I lived in a mainly white area with not a diverse school system in a more higher socioeconomic area. From Vygotsky, I was able to develop more of a zone proximal development, where I was able to do things without assistance from adult guidance. From Bloom's taxonomy, I began to build my remembering stage, the bottom stage, where I could remember long-term memories, such as different states, certain dates, and song correlations. I was also developing my LGBTQ+ when I was bullied in elementary school. This was followed because Dorothy Espelage was developing bullying behavior in her study. I was also developing my SEL development, where I was able to learn to notice emotions and handle situations, such as in preschool, I developed an emotional note card book. Moving into my middle school stage was a high transition stage, due to going into new school and meeting more people, and developing physically. From Maslow, I began to develop more esteem needs, such as noticing I need more self-esteem, achievement, independence, and respect from others I gained. From Kohlberg, I developed more of a conventional morality, where I began to notice more societal norms and traditions enhanced. This was when I also noticed a lot more bullying was present in my school, and I began to follow more trends. From Bloom's taxonomy, I was developing the second lowest stage, understanding, where I was demonstrating more comprehension through forms of explanation, charts, and diagrams. From LGBTQ+, I noticed more on safety and well-being of all students and their sexual orientation, because this was a time when many people were beginning to transition, I noticed. I also noticed more on how I began to learn during this time, such as more visual aids, such as mentioned by Vygotsky, and hands-on learning. And additionally, the freedom in projects, which was more Reggio-inspired, which I excelled at more. Freshman year was another building stage for me due to being in another school and developing more physically and struggling more with body image issues at this time. I noticed that social media was taking a big impact on myself during this time period, which made me reflect more on who I want to be in the future. From Piaget, though, I learned more on my formal operations stage, where I was able to consider more possible outcomes and problem solving, such as hypotheticals. From Bloom's taxonomy, I was beginning more analyzing, such as breaking apart something and determining more structure purpose, such as taking more complex subjects. I was taking higher classes such as honors or AP during high school. In LGBTQ+, I developed more safety and well-being of all students and their sexual orientation. It was very prominent during this time period now. Then, my freshman year got cut short due to COVID, which impacted my chrono system.
The outbreak in Wuhan, China.
Across the country, at least 21 million kids now home from school.
The number of affected countries has tripled.
The World Health Organization has just declared that this is a pandemic.
COVID was a very hard time for me. It impacted my mental health because it felt like I was stuck inside my house while the world kept moving outside, such as not being able to see my friends, go to school, play sports, or visit my family. I was able to learn how to do baking, cooking, reading more, and visiting my lake house more. But this impacted my learning by showing I do better in person at school with friends to help me. Slowly, I was able to go back in the world, such as eating in bubble domes at the restaurant. I get to start driving and be able to have a more normal junior year. But in my COVID years, I was able to learn more about Maslow's self-actualization on how I needed to live up to our fullest and unique potential, and how Gloria Ladson Billings showed that using culture as a driver in class, such as implementing more on the outside influences in class, was very impactful to me, and how COVID impacted our culture all around. I was very grateful, though, about this experience and learning more on how to better myself for the future and how I wanted to help myself mentally. Even though my high school stage was cut short from COVID, I was still able to learn many things from after COVID, such as Maslow's self-transcendence needs, which I was able to find meaning and identity beyond myself, more about Bloom's taxonomy's evaluating stage and making judgments based on criterion standards, and how to determine when projects are up to standard or based on a rubric I create myself. And also at this time, it was more normal being able to be able to go to sporting events and more school dances and be able to live a more normal high school experience after COVID. And this also led to more of a common question on LGBTQ+, where we had more big questions on high school focusing on pronouns and how to support each other with new transitions. I feel like this was a good time when I was able to find myself and where I wanted to go, which I decided in Butler. And I was very glad I was able to learn more of myself and how to build a better living life to the fullest motto. This also allowed me to build a lot more of my big moments in my chrono system, such as graduating high school and being ready to go to college. Now for my most recent stage, the college stage. I was still continuing on my Maslow self-transcendence needs and living alone at college without being with my family. I was able to also build my Monisha Bahaj trauma pedagogy and teaching of self-management and coping skills. This also allowed me to help with my Kohlberg post-conventional morality, where I was able to notice that society doesn't have true rules and they're not super clear-cut. This allowed me to think more for myself and be able to benefit who I want to be in the future. I was also able to learn more on who I want to be around people in my life, such as joining a sorority and being able to find friends on my own without being in the same school district anymore. Throughout all my life and being able to experience what I've experienced, I was able to develop my own ecological systems theory. I was also able to notice what SEL goals I have for myself in the future. Now onto my impact to my future classroom. I want to show Monisha Bahaj's trauma pedagogy and showing safety and welcomeness to all my students, being able to bring lovingness and love needs to all my students by recognizing their learning styles from Maslow, Additionally, from Maslow, their self-actualization needs and being on unique lessons and field trips for their learning standards, beginning their SEL development, especially at the elementary school level, showing their Bloom taxonomy creating pyramid and how they have the potential to create anything they want, and showing that LGBTQ+ is welcome in my classroom, and validating their students' emotions and experience with gender. Thank you for watching my developmental history project of my life.